top stories, with no less than the president himself condemning the abuse of overseas Filipino workers. A ban on sending workers to Kuwait is imposed as hundreds return safely home. Economic sabotage. The National Food Authority Council chief warns private traders about hoarding rice. And with Valentine's Day just a few days away, prices of flowers are going up. The Labor Department is opposing a ban on new deployment of Filipino workers to Kuwait on orders of President Rodrigo Duterte. He issued the order after a Filipino, Joanna Demafellis, was found dead in a freezer in a Middle Eastern country. Her body bore signs of torture. Labor Secretary Sylvester Bello signed the administrative order effective immediately. The President also ordered the Labor Department to bring home all OFWs in Kuwait who want to come home.
Yun lang gustong umuwi. At saka yung dapat umuwi, kalimbawa wala naman silang trabaho doon, ganon. Yun ang tutulungan natin makauwi. Pero yung mga nandun, magandang trabaho, maganda naman ang treatment sa kanilang mga employer nila, they can stay for as long as they want.
The family of Joanna Demafellis says the OFW stopped communicating with them in 2016. The family said they approached the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or Owwa, but didn't get much help. Prior to the discovery of Demafellis' remains, 7 other Filipino housemates were reported dead in Kuwait. The death of Joanna Demafellis renews concerns over Filipino workers overseas. More than 500 OFWs from Kuwait were repatriated since last week. Our Rexer Media talked to some of them, and it appears Demafellis was not alone.
Visha Soriano couldn't hold back her tears as she describes her ordeal working in Kuwait for almost 3 years. The 43-year-old signed up as a caregiver, earning 16,000 pesos a month to provide for her 3 children back home. But she ended up an illegal house helper for an abusive employer.
Yung hinatak ako na gusto niya akong anuhin, sabi ko sa kanya, Madam, kahit patayin mo ako dito, wala akong magagawa, basta gusto ko sa magpasoli sa agency. Kasi yung agency, ayaw nila sa akin na tanggapin. Hindi ko na kaya, nagkasakit ako, na-stress ako, hindi ako makabangon, hindi ako makalakad.
Like Soriano, 51-year-old Mercy Cartujano shares the same story.
Araw-araw, laging nagmumura, laging nag-ano, tapos yung mga bata, nananakit, nananadyak, nagdudura.
Both fortunately did not suffer the fate of Joanna Demafellis, whose body was found in a freezer after a year. They escaped by sheer will and the instinct to survive. But without passports and documents, they cannot renew their work visas until these expired.
Yung mga pulis doon sa mga daan nagche-checking.
They took advantage of President Duterte's offer to go home at no cost. Soriano and Cartujano are among the more than 500 repatriated workers since last week. About 2,000 more will be going home in the coming days.
Yung mga nandito ngayon is a combination of yung mga humingi ng tulong sa polo o sa embahada o yung mga nag-overstay.
The workers will be getting 5,000 pesos as financial assistance, 20,000 pesos more if they want to put up a business. Cartujano regrets taking the risk in Kuwait, while Soriano is hoping her family will understand her situation.
Sana naman matanggap nilang buong na hindi ako parang nagwagi dito sa pag-abroad kong itong pangatlo as itong sa Kuwait. Sana sila na lang ang mag-alaga sa akin pagtanda ko.
For those who want to inquire on the status of their relatives working in Kuwait, you may call the Owwa hotlines at 551-1560. You may also send a text message to 0917-TXT-OWWA. Rex Remitio, CNN, Philippines.
Let's now go above and beyond the headlines with Hans Kakdak. He is the administrator of the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or Owwa. Good evening, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Pia, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, let's just clarify the mandate of Owwa as compared to or opposed to POEA, Philippine Overseas Employment Administration.
Yes, the POA essentially is engaged in the regulation of recruitment of OFWs for their better protection.
Or sending them abroad, no?
Sending them abroad. Therefore, POA is engaged in licensing as well as looking into cases involving recruitment agencies and repatriation of workers through the recruitment agencies.
Okay, and Owwa?
And Owwa is engaged in the protection of OFWs who are on site, abroad, as well as the families here who are left behind.
All right, so that means, that is why the family of this Joanna Demafellis, whose body was found in a freezer in Kuwait, approached Owwa back in 2016.
Our records indicate that she approached POEA in January of 2017.
I see. Okay.
And-
Sorry, 2017.
And in our case, February 28, 2017, she approached our Repatriation Assistance Division, she being Jessica, the sister of Joanna, the elder sister.
And at the time, she said that they had not heard from her sister for like a year already. Several
At that time, based on the record, she had said that the last time they had communicated was May 2016.
Okay, so parang over half a year already. Ang sabi kasi, and we quote the sister, no, si Jessica saying, and we quote, umaasa kami na aksyonan ng OWA tsaka ng embassy sa Kuwait pero walang aksyon. Wala ba talagang aksyon, or was there an effort by OWA and the embassy in Kuwait to locate her?
What happened after the visit to the Owwa on February 2017, 28, 2017, there was a follow-up. An email or communication was sent to our welfare officers in Kuwait.
Yes.
And there was a follow-up email in March 2017, March 17, 2017. And what happened thereafter is that our welfare officers ascertained the existence of the Kuwaiti agency. The POA had already said that the local agency's license had been cancelled, the Philippine agent.
Cancelled because?
There were some violations or infractions back in June 2016 for some other case.
Okay. Before or after Joanna Demafellis left for Cuba?
This was after. Yes, this was after. Joanna left around May 2014. And the cancellation of her recruiter's license was June 2016.
Okay, and I mean, very briefly, sir, what kind of violations did this agency have?
There would be recruitment violations or violations of the POA rules and regulations with respect to recruitment.
Okay, which would have put OFWs in harm's way.
Yes, yes.
All right, so let's go back, sir. So there was that first email after the visit of Jessica Demafellis to Owwa in Feb 2017. A first email was sent.
And then a second communication in March.
What happened to the first email? Sinagot naman?
It was a follow-up email to the first one, just around 2 weeks apart.
There was no response to the
no
first
response,
email?
no response.
Bakit?
And well, we sent a second email.
Yes.
And in March 2017, and the second email had a response in terms of the recruitment agency in Kuwait being inoperative. And that
So parehong nagsara.
parehong
Local
nagsara,
agency and you.
parehong nagsara, and
Kuwaiti
there
police.
was a difficulty in locating Joanna. The next piece of information we got was that Joanna had extended her contract.
When? What month was that?
This because her contract would have expired in May 2016.
Yeah.
But the information that we gathered, this was information we gathered from the POEA record,
Okay.
that she had extended her contract, which made her stay in Kuwait beyond May 2016, which was supposed to be her date of return to the Philippines. So she had extended beyond May 2016. And there was difficulty to locate her at that point in after around March 2017.
Yeah. Do we know, does the Philippine government know when the Kuwaiti-based agency closed down? Apparently it was in March 2017, so it must have been
it was
long
before this.
that.
It was before the search for her had happened, or the attempt to locate her had happened.
Okay, so in other words, the search for Joanna Demafellis stopped there because hindi na malocate,
Hindi na
nag-close
siya
down yung
mahanap.
agency doon.
Hindi na siya mahanap.
Was there no other way that she could have been found apart from going through the agency? Wala na bang ibang paraan talaga?
Well, another possible way could have been to go through the Kuwaiti authorities. But the Kuwaiti authorities apparently had taken action at around just recently when they broke open the home of the employer.
They did that because of the
failure to pay rent on the part of the Kuwaiti
So it was just a failure to pay rent. It wasn't because hinahanap si Joanna.
Yes. She was discovered by accident.
Yeah. Well, why didn't Filipino authorities there in Kuwait go to Kuwaiti authorities and say, we're looking for a domestic helper. Her name is Joanna Demafellis, and she has had no contact with her family whatsoever. We can't find her. Nag-close down yung kanyang recruitment agency here in Kuwait. Why didn't that happen?
Well, this information is not with me at this point, but the information I gathered is there was an attempt to look for her, and she could not be found.
Ganun lang. So, is that how we lose many people?
In this case, this is the information that we have at this point, and Secretary Bello has asked us to look deeper into this matter.
Okay.
And to look into whether there has been any failure to perform duty on the part of our welfare officers on the ground.
Don't we have agreements with countries where we send OFWs? And very briefly lang po, sir, don't we have agreements with them, for the protection of these workers? If in this case, the closed down yung agency, there is no way to find a Filipino national who's been missing? I mean, hindi ba parang kumbaga obligation yan ng host country?
Well, at this stage, we don't have a bilateral agreement we do have a general bilateral agreement with Kuwait, but we don't have a bilateral labor agreement with respect to domestic workers in Kuwait.
So we shouldn't be sending domestic workers to Kuwait now?
Well, there was supposed to be a review of the situation of OFWs in Kuwait. And with the year that passed in 2017 was not a good year at all in terms of having 12 questionable deaths involving workers in Kuwait, most of them domestic workers. And so with this occurrence, and demanding results and findings from the Kuwaiti government as to how these deaths occurred, we now had the conclusion and the information that action needed to be taken. The rest had transpired in terms of the president getting word or knowledge of this information.
And then ordering that ban. And I hope, everybody hopes that there will be that bilateral agreement to protect all these domestic workers. Well, thank you very much, sir. Hans Kaktak, Owwa Administrator. Salamat po, sir.
Thank you.
You're watching Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Is there economic sabotage behind the rise, saying some private traders are hoarding supply? Our senior correspondent, Ina Andalong, has that report.
In the wake of rising prices of rice, the policy-making NFA Council held a special session. There it was confirmed the NFA only has 2 days' worth of buffer stocks. But NFA Council Chairperson and Cabinet Secretary June Evasco says this shouldn't result in the staple getting more costly.
Hindi naman, kasi yung buffer stock is designed to be kept in consideration of calamities, disasters, and other difficult situations.
Evasco makes it clear there's no rice shortage. So what is causing the spike in rice prices? The NFA Council suspects a number of private rice traders are hoarding, holding on to their stocks while waiting for the time they can sell high.
Maraming sabutan sa lagyan. Can you sleep at night when a lot of people don't have anything to buy and yet you're hoarding, you're keeping so much? Maraming sabutan siya. And therefore, sir, they'll get to be prosecuted.
He says the NFA has been told to be more proactive in inspecting warehouses of private rice traders and prosecute those found keeping their stocks that results in price manipulation. Evasco says hoarding is a criminal offense, and while they're not accusing the NFA of wrongdoing, he says it would be considered neglect of duty if the agency is found colluding with hoarders. For now, the council is banking on the expected surge in supply to stabilize prices. The president has given his go signal to import 250,000 metric tons of rice covered by a previously approved standby authority. This supply will come in after the harvest season in June and will add to a separate foreign shipment coming in under the country's arrangement with the World Trade Organization. Under the so-called Minimum Access Volume Scheme, more than 500,000 metric tons of rice with low tariff will arrive by end February until August this year. Evasco says rice shipments from abroad should help prop up buffer stocks, raise supply, and lower what the council believes may be artificially high prices caused by those exploiting the situation.
Yung bang pag-hoard ba, pag-keep, it's not just only criminal liability. At the same time, immoral talaga yan.
Ina Andolong, CNN Philippines.
Malacanang denies having a soft stance on China amid its efforts to militarize disputed areas in the South China Sea. Presidential spokesman Harry Roque clarifies protests of the militarization of some areas have been filed under President Duterte's leadership. It is unclear for now, though, if the protests cover recently reported militarized areas. Roque also stressed that the government has established a bilateral consultation mechanism which is intended to specifically tackle contentious issues in the South China Sea. Established in October last year, the next meeting will be held tomorrow in Manila.
The purpose of this BCM is to discuss issues of concern to either side and cooperation in the South China Sea and identify mutually acceptable approaches towards addressing these issues. So we are not being soft on China. There are ongoing bilateral talks as far as contentious South China Sea issues are concerned.
The Chinese delegation will be led by Vice Foreign Minister Kong Xuan Yu, while the Philippine delegation will be led by Foreign Affairs Undersecretary for Policy Enrique Manalo. PLDT Chairman and CEO Manny Pangilinan hits back at claims that the telco giant is withholding its spare frequencies from the government in an effort to block the entry of a third telco player. Tensions were high as Pangilinan faced reporters for the first time since PLDT agreed last week to turn over its frequencies without any compensation. MVP said frequencies had been returned to the National Telecommunications Commission way back in 2011. In the terms of the contract, the NTC was supposed to bid out the frequency and pay back PLDT, but the bidding was never held. Now Pangilinan says PLDT is being made to appear as if it is keeping the frequencies to itself in exchange for money.
That's not correct. We turned over the frequency in 2011 to the NTC, to the government, so the frequency is with them already. And in fact, part of the NTC order was that we are not allowed to bid for that frequency, and we agreed in 2011 that we will not bid for the frequency if it's bidded out. So we're returning something that is with them already.
What comes after is you're writing to the NTC too?
You know, I've said enough. I've said enough.
Last week, PLDT said it will no longer ask for payment for its surrender for the 3G frequencies it surrendered in 2011, so a third telco player can come in. With Valentine's Day